movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on the Film Review Live channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stanis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching the Film Review.
There we are. Look, people, this is another great episode of the Film Review. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture,
Yeah.
politics, and society. And do we have a great show for you today? Do we have a great show for you today? Matter of fact, it's jam-packed.
Yeah.
We're talking about quite a few things. So let me tell you something. Under the lights, it gets hot, baby. I can tell you, it gets hot. Just like the show. The show's going to be hot today.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on right here in Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? There's a consulate seat race going on, and there's treachery in that. We're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
We're going to be asking you, should a woman profit from off of being involved in a certain situation that has to do with, I guess you would call it a extramarital affair? Should women be that? Also, people, we have the review on John Henry. You know, that's starring none other than Terry Crews.
Yep, and Ludacris.
Yep. You know, there's been a lot over the internet about this movie.
Yeah.
Is it the worst movie ever?
Oh.
Or is it...
Like I'm up too high.
Okay, there you go. There you down. Or is it the worst movie ever? Or is it slept on? Is it a sleeper? And that's what we're going to talk about now, right? As I do some promo here. We are on. There we go. That's what we say right there.
So how has your week
on.
been?
You know, my week has been very interesting with what's going on. Whole situation, them talking about Obama and his White House and doing what he did. Talking about he was what's the name, and going after Trump. And
Do you think all of this is a distraction from the whole Biden and I guess the woman who accused him of sexual harassment?
You know what? I would say, you know, from whose part? Expound upon that for a minute. On whose part?
A distraction on maybe Biden's campaign, right? And so now that the tape was released with Obama making a statement.
It was leaked, yeah. Supposedly leaked.
So now that they're focusing on this Obama leak, to me, just my opinion, that took the heat off of Biden in the sexual harassment case, right? And also, Obama, he's kind of reemerged. You know, he spoke at a few
through a video
colleges, through video on television. So I've been seeing him a lot lately. So now the focus is kind of on Obama, you know, and off of Biden. So
is that a positive thing for Biden, or is that something positive for Trump, or what is it?
I really don't think anyone is looking for what's best for the country, right? As far as, because if we're trying to save Biden, does that mean there's a shortcoming? And don't you want? Why not put the best man in office as the Democrat runner-up against Trump, right? And so if they're not confident in Biden, then they have to throw around all kinds of other issues just to keep the focus off of, you know, people say that Biden doesn't seem So, coherent during interviews, the sexual harassment, as well as bills that he passed and bills that he have passed that that weren't good for the black community, right?
They weren't good.
So he's got all of these skeletons in his closet, as well as what's going on with him presently, which doesn't seem mentally not the sharpest, right?
Not
so
good.
If we throw Obama out there, who everyone loves, this is just my thinking. If we throw Obama out there, who everyone loves, that'll take the heat off of Joe. And we just got a few months till we can get him in that presidential slot. So it's just like political games is being played, right? Just my opinion.
So you think that what they're doing is setting it up so that if they can do the bait and switch, or they can put the shiny object over here and everyone's looking over there,
and
they can slide
attention.
Biden in, right?
Right.
What if, let's look at it the other way, what if they're trying to put all of this information up about Biden, right, early on. They're trying to possibly kill two birds with one stone.
And put Cuomo up?
They're trying to get Trump with all the information.
Okay.
And, Obama, they will try to sacrifice Obama's legacy so they can, and then they have the information about Joe going out there about this intern or this staffer.
Right.
And then both of them, Trump and Biden, are eliminated, and somehow they bring Cuomo in.
Right. Yeah, that's another.
That's a feasible idea.
Yeah.
Is that even possible, though? I mean, would that even make sense?
Anything is possible. No?
And then Cuomo has the scandal going on, talking about that he meanwhile, while he put his mother into a hotel, they were putting COVID-19 infected patients
back into the skilled facilities.
Into skilled facilities. Okay. And now he was yelling at the skilled facilities last week, if you don't have the ability to take care of your people, to move them.
But I thought the center that they used, I'm not from there, but the center that they opened, and they had all of those beds.
Yeah, the convention center.
At the convention center,
right. So why didn't they use that? Why would Cuomo,
instead of putting them back into the population of healthy seniors?
Why would you put them in retirement homes?
Right.
And skilled health facilities for the elderly?
Right.
Why would you do that? And Trump brought the ship and brought and transformed the convention center into a COVID-19 facility for the patients, and they kept asking, well, we never saw any patients. We never saw any patients. Like, what is that about? What is that about? I mean, it's craziness. It's craziness. People, listen, also, people, you can come on with us live, right? You have to have Google Chrome, and you can come on with us live on the show. We will bring you up as a guest live. We're trying this new technology out, right? And you can come right on with us as a guest. You got to have a camera and a microphone, and we'll be able to bring you right on, and you'll be able to talk right with us, right? So as I go through here and hit some more promo, yeah, I'll say it is. It is hot. It is hot. Let's go through here. Hit this.
So they're slowly reopening cities.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're slowly open. People, would you please wear your mask and your gloves? People, would you please wear your mask and gloves when you're out? We're watching the news. Now, we saw this. We talked about this last week when we went out. That, the 21st, the peak passed. Right? And then they started phase 1 here in Las Vegas. And when we went out and we went into the stores, there were hardly any people wearing masks and gloves. Right? They were just out there. And, And then when you watch the news now, they're talking about to make this work,
right.
They are depending on the American people, the American public,
right.
to be able to social distance. But you see, as they go into the bars in certain cities, we saw it in Milwaukee. They were in the bar and they were right up on each other, eating peanuts and drinking beer.
I had talked to a friend, was it Monday? Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, Monday morning. And she was going to the grocery store, right? And then so she said, I went out and then I noticed that like the beach was packed, right? Because she lives in Texas and she stays on one of the islands. And she said in the beach was like packed with a bunch of people, and she said it was like a lot of people came onto the island because it's not really that many people on the island, so it was just tons and tons of cars. That was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the cases was low there, so that's why that she lived in one of the cities where they did the slowly reopening phase 1, right? They had very low cases. So fast forwarded to was it either Saturday or Friday morning when I was watching the news, and she had sent a text, and she just said, "I told you so." And then on the news, what did they say? They said that they have a high rate of the COVID cases are going back up now. In the area that she lived in, where they barely had any, when they flooded the beaches and just flooded all of the shops and the bars and all of that stuff, now they have a high rate. And that was like 2 weeks ago when they didn't have any. So it's just, but the thing is, she was just saying, well, that's fine, the people out, and she said they just wasn't social distancing, right? So and wearing masks. So while all of these people were out, right, had they just worn their mask and kind of like, spaced themselves from strangers, because she said there was a lot of strangers like packed near each other too.
Packed on each other like sardines.
So now they have a high rate. And in the hospital where she is, they're using the parking lot at some place to help build beds and stuff, put beds there. But it's just like people just, whatever. People are not, I don't know. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know if people have a death sentence or just, they refuse to wear a mask. And then then they're endangering the lives of others. And then it's just crazy. And then when all of these healthcare workers, right? Everybody is saying they're tired. We're pushed to the limit. So what is the public going to do when the healthcare workers just say, fuck it?
When they say, forget it, I'm done.
I mean, because if people don't care, because really you can kind of, there's a line where in healthcare we can teach also, right? So they don't necessarily have to be on the front line. They can do online teaching.
Yeah, but
and there's so many other things they can do in healthcare. They can work for insurance companies, and they have doctors and stuff, and nurses and lab techs who don't necessarily have to be in a huge hospital. They can be in smaller settings. So what happens when in the healthcare world they just say forget it? Because if the people don't care, we're dying, we're killing ourselves. There's been people in the healthcare field committing suicide. So what if they say they don't care because the public is too stupid to do the smallest thing, which is to just wear a freaking mask when you're out? And what if they just say forget it? Then you don't have healthcare workers. So what if you have all of this bed, all of this space in the hospital, but there's no one to take care of the people?
What if there is? What
so
if that happens?
It's just, it's just sad. And then there's another group of people who, they'll say, I'll hear them say, well, I don't watch the news. And I'm like, okay, well then how do you know what's going on? Like, how do you know what's going on? And then in your mind, they're going by just because they're not watching the news, they're not informed. You don't have to watch the news every day to be informed, even if you watch it twice a week. Like, you don't even have to watch the news, even if you just read your local news. Find out what's going on, at least locally. Go online, read the article.
And people say that they don't want to. People say that they don't have to hear this, and they don't want to be necessarily reprimanded. But when are you going to hear it? When are you going to take responsibility for yourself? When it's just like the whole thing with consciousness and pro-blackness and all that. People say, "Well, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. I don't hear."
Like,
well, when are you ever going to hear it? When are you ever going to have time to hear it? When it's too late?
Well, then they're looking stupid.
Well, we'll know by the 31st in Las Vegas, because what we saw once they said that Phase 1 was coming in, we saw something that we were like, "Wow, these people really don't believe." We see people having events, and they're out, and they don't have a mask on the first, or they're not distancing even.
Because, like, even when you're out, that's not the issue. The issue is when you're out, wear the protective gear to protect, if not yourself, others.
Right.
Because I've seen it in so many other states that have reopened. People just are so relaxed about it, and they're not wearing masks. And then fast forward to days later, then you watch the news, and in that city they've had COVID cases reemerging all over again because people aren't following instructions. And it's frustrating because it's sad because these are children's parents. So people want to blame a lot on the youth, right? But if the children are learning, if a lot of their character comes from their parents, what are they learning when you're looking at these grown people walking around not even following instructions, to keep themselves as well as their children and everyone else alive? The smallest thing, you can still go out and do what you want to do, but wear a mask. So, but then I'm like, okay, so if you are a shitty adult, what kind of kid are you going to raise? I mean, so it's just like if you're not, your children watch you, right? So it's just funny when people say this generation, I'm like, okay, well, you guys are the ones who raised this generation. So what type of
generation around?
Right. What type of example did you lead? What did you teach them?
What did you teach?
Right.
So people, look, in the middle of all of this is a political scandal taking place, and the person that's involved who leaked this out to the public, I don't think that they realize something, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But this is what's happening in Las Vegas, Nevada. Congressional District 4, CD4, Representative Stephen Alexander Horsford is embroiled in now a sexual scandal, a extramarital affair scandal, and we talked about it. We posted a response to it. We grabbed the link to the story that came out in the Review Journal, and we posted it on one of the sites, right? And we talked about one. Well, the question is, should a woman be able to profit from off of having such a happening as an extramarital affair with a man, and then blame it and say that the man was older and he knew how to take advantage and all that? Is that person really able?
Well, you know what this is around the world. Right now we're talking about Las Vegas. Everyone's dealing with COVID-19.
That's right.
Many people are not working, right? Many people are laid off. So many people, there are people who have to do what they have to do to take care of themselves and their family. Like the article that you're talking about, right? What's going on? in this article in the Las Vegas Review Journal, the woman who, what is he, a congressman?
He's the representative.
The woman who he had an affair with, she states in this article that she has a child, right? Uh-huh. So she has a child that she has to take care of. She has to feed, right? Uh-huh. So this is her life. She has a story to tell, and she can profit off of it. She's not profiting off someone else's life. She's not sitting back and telling you, like, who is that woman? I can't even think of her name now. You remember when, what's her name, Monica Lewinsky was having an affair with the president? Uh-huh. And the other woman, I can't think of her name.
Linda Tripp?
Right. So Linda Tripp was on television telling her story or whatever, blah, 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 whatever, profiting off of it. This woman isn't doing that, profiting off of what she's seeing as like third person. She was in the relationship. She was part of the affair. Mm-hmm. So, hey, it's her story to tell. She can tell it.
She can.
Hell, she may do a Lifetime movie. You know how Lifetime does. Me and the congressman.
Well, see, that's the whole thing.
I mean, Lifetime, right?
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, it's a podcast, and it brought it out, and she said he had been saying that he was going to leave his wife. Now, that's one of the oldest ones in the book. If anyone believes that a person is going to leave their wife, you know.
But are we underestimating her because she seems, I mean, you know, she said, hey, she's got proof. She's got a record of being in that relationship. She's got all the information she needs because she mentioned the book also, right?
Right.
So, hey, she may have said, oh, well, who knows? In her heart of hearts, she, you know, because she has a political background, right? She was Harry Reid's intern, right?
Right.
So, I'm sure she's a smart woman, right? So she might have said, hey, I'm going to ride this ride as long as I can. And when it stops, and if it does stop, I have what's the words? I have a story to tell, which will continue to provide an income.
We got a meal ticket.
A meal ticket for life. So
a woman should be able to profit off of
their story. And then as far as he goes, he should continue to run for office and help the community. I mean, look at the president of the United States. Well, really, President, what's his name? President Bill Clinton, as well as the previous presidents, like Kennedy, right? Mm-hmm. Who was known, and in many biographies, as well as his autobiography and films that we've seen, he had affairs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's nothing new that in politics, the politicians, they have affairs, right? Not saying that it's right or wrong or whatever, right? I'm just saying this is what they do. But they don't stop. They continue to work in their field.
Well, not in the years before Bill Clinton. And even after Bill Clinton, there have been people who have stepped down because of affairs.
Well, those are the ones who choose to, but you didn't. President Trump, he said, hey, he kept going, and when we mentioned Kennedy stayed in office as well as the others. What happened when they asked Bush?
Back then.
What about President Bush? He stayed in office.
And see, that's the thing about the Republicans versus the Democrats. The Republicans will sit up there and say, that is none of your business. Now, right. Trump, who was once a Democrat, now he's a Republican. Right. He's the only one who said, he pretty much said, I can go out there in New York and shoot somebody, and right? He said that, and people pretty much say, hey, you know, that's pretty much, it looks like that's true, right? Mm-hmm. But Kennedy, all those affairs and stuff came out after his assassination. Okay. The stories came out after. It wasn't the media.
But it was rumbling around. They knew. The media may not have reported it, but they knew.
What I'm saying, they knew, but it was a different time.
What about Andrew Gillum, right, in Florida, right? Now he was just found in a hotel room
with 2 men
and drugs, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and didn't they soon after that there was a press release or something about support Gilliam and
they're gonna support
and they're gonna keep him in office, and I'm sure
he's not in office.
Again.
He's not. He's got to go through this whole kumbaya. My thing is this: everybody knows that politicians are not holy men,
right,
and they are not chosen by God to do what they do. For goodness sakes, they go over to Washington. Washington is one big compromise,
right,
one big cesspool
right,
of hell. And they go over there and they fight in hell. Hopefully, if
right,
Horsford is a good representative
right,
for CD4, he's bringing back the goodies, right, so that the black people in the historic West,
right,
and the north side of Las
right,
Vegas,
right,
can have, and the people that he
right,
represents, the whole
right,
north part of Las Vegas in the CD4, that they will have great possibility, right, and opportunity through what he brings back.
Right.
That represents compromise. Some of his principles have to be compromised. That's one big cesspool of hell. That has nothing to do with what he's doing sexually, right, with someone else on the side. If my memory doesn't fail me, which it doesn't, some of the greatest political leaders have had extramarital affairs. Some of the ones that we feel aren't great, but on the other side of the line, they felt that they were great. George Herbert Walker, when he passed on, they had a big thing, and they never even mentioned anything about his affair. Because you know what he said? He got up there. We are not talking about that. Move on. And the media moved on. Here's Biden with this. They say that she says basically that he raped her, right? She says basically that he raped her, and he gets up there and says it never happened. It never happened. Why can't you do what Ronald Reagan said? When Ronald Reagan was asked about the Iran-Contra, you know, the thing that had to do with dropping cocaine in so it could be turned into Ready Rock to spread across the black community so they could finance the Iran Contra war. And you know what Ronald Reagan said? I don't recall. And the media was stammered and stymied, and they moved on from it. And when he died, what did they do? They gave him a great bon voyage, and he was considered one of the greatest presidents ever. And meanwhile, he gave government cheese, he had welfare lines, he cut everything possible that he possibly could. He put crack into the black community, but he's considered great, and no one, not even the black community people, even say anything about that's not true, and that George Herbert Walker Bush wasn't good because he was in the CIA at the time when they were dropping the...
Well, you know, if these people can forgive Biden, in which I saw so many people uplifting him after what he's done to the black community, they could surely forgive Horsford for what he did in his personal life, what had nothing to do with politics. So stupid.
I mean, look. You got this...
Who cares?
You got this... who cares? But you got this fail, and then... Here in Las Vegas, this is fact, this is not something, the videotape is out there. Everybody was filming. Everybody was using their cameras on their Facebook Live, and they was filming, and the people was hopping, jack, jumping to be around Biden. Biden signed the crack laws. He signed the 94 crime bill that put 100,000 police officers on the street and locked up more black males than at any time ever. He was basically someone that is a Dixiecrat. Do you know what a Dixiecrat is? You should research and find out what a Dixiecrat is. The Dixiecrats were the ones that were doing the lynching during the time when Johnson said we're going to sign the Civil Rights Act, the Voters' Rights Act, Housing Rights Act. The Dixiecrats moved over to the Republican Party, but some Dixiecrats stayed, and they're called Blue Dog Democrats, conservative.
And we talk about this. Well, he's Strong Thurman, passed away, but Biden.
Byrd.
Right, he called
Senator Byrd.
They were his friends, right?
They were friends.
So I mean, and then he voted on issues with them, and we know that those guys. And those two, they were Republicans, right?
But they were also, were once Dixiecrats that were Confederate still. They still believed in segregation.
I mean, I'm just, just tired of the hypocrisy,
Right. So the people was hijacking and jumping around and running around Biden and saying that Biden is the one. Right. Why is it that when we had our person in, Obama was not ADOS, or he was half Kenyan and half Kansas, okay, and grew up in Hawaii, did not have the experience that someone who came up in the inner cities or the suburbs of America where it was predominantly black. He didn't have that experience, and he doesn't come from that lineage, right? But let's just say because he had the phenotype and he looked like us, how come the person that looked like us had to be so articulate, had to be so professor style orator? He had to be so smooth, but then we get a guy in who obviously there's something going on. Did you see him on Stephanopoulos on Sunday?
Who, Trump?
No.
Biden. Oh, okay.
He was on Stephanopoulos, and Stephanopoulos asked him about what was happening with the White House. He said, I knew there was nothing. I was not involved in it. He said, well, they're actually pushing. He said, you were actually in the room. And then Biden says, oh, well, I thought you meant did I have anything to do with old boy being prosecuted, which is Flynn being prosecuted. And no, but I knew that there was an investigation going on. But they're saying that you're one of the ones who unmasked the name and possibly could be the principal one that leaked the name. Where's the uproar from where's the uproar from the Democrat side about this? Where's the uproar from the Enough and Me Too about him possibly raping this woman? Where's the outrage? So that's my point. So compared to rape, compared to grabbing them by the woo-woo, compared to all that, having a consensual extramarital affair should not disqualify horsework, right? They should not disqualify him. That's between him, his wife, and his family. Right. But other than that, like I said, politicians, we should really stop with this whole thing about them being holier than thou, and they want to speak to you and they talk about Jesus in the book and family and great family values. They're over there in hell in Washington, and they're fighting to bring back something good to make heaven where you are, if they possibly can, if they do not compromise too much. Compromising automatically means that you're going to give up some of your principles. And if your principles are based in morals, and you get your morals from the good book, if you get your morals from the good book, but then you compromise on your morals, then obviously you are in a state of hell. And so that is exactly why he should be reelected and go back over there. This doesn't have anything, and as far as to me, the woman, the way the article read, and the way that the reporter wrote it. I want to say the way the reporter wrote it for the Review Journal, it makes it seem like the person is just trying to get a payday. Kind of like what you said, times is hard, and it was seem that once the COVID went down, couldn't move around. The person, Representative Horsford, couldn't move around like he usually could. Right. And so
I think we're going to hear lots of stories like this.
Yeah, probably. And then, so he wasn't able to move around. So then, he had to kind of like tighten it up. And then all of a sudden, something happened with a personal phone call. And then he was on her son's podcast on YouTube. Not a business line, but a personal line, and that probably brought awareness to, like, who is this person who just gets you to do this son, and then we're looking at the son, and who can get you to do this for their son? You don't do nothing for no one, unsolicited. If it's not through solicitation, you're not doing it. And why would you do this now?
Right. Well, happy early birthday. Born May 19th, 1925, to El Haj Malik El Shabazz, better known as Malcolm X. His birthday is May 19th. What's today, the 17th? So that's Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, so happy birthday to the late Malcolm X.
Late Malcolm X, right? All right, people. So we talked about that. So pretty much, hey, what do they say? Snit happens. That's the way it is. And for someone to be involved, just my opinion, is for someone to be involved in an extramarital affair and then say that the person should repent and pull back and not run. Well, what about some repenting and pulling back from what you were doing? I'm just asking.
Right.
What about that? What about you pulling back and repenting and not doing what you're doing, and quit doing what you're doing, and quit telling these stories, and pull back from off of that? I mean, it's just really, people. The Bible, when I read it and when I read it, it is a guide for men in particular, the stories. Yeah. Samson, David, Adam,
right.
You name it, you go through. There are stories to tell you to stay away from certain types of women. That's what it tells you. It tells you to stay away. And well, unfortunately, the way the Bible is written in the Old Testament, which I never could understand why women really fit. I'm going to be messing with the preachers for a minute. I'm sorry, because I know that your collection plates are filled by women, because women in particular are the ones that, black women in particular, are the ones that they kept them working, and they stripped the black men of jobs starting in the 80s with Ronald Reagan. This is his story that we're afflicted by, because they made these decisions. And they locked up, they did the Ready Rock in the 80s. Right. In the 90s, they locked up the men.
Right.
So then women are the ones who are the breadwinners in the families majority today, right? Because they've done this, right? Now, back when men were the breadwinners of the household and women were at home, well, the preachers was kicking brimstone and Jezebel and Delilah. But then when it changed, they switched over, and they don't talk about that now. But this book right here, if you read it, it is a guide to stay away from certain women. It tells you in there, and it tells you that people fall, and then they have grace, and then they're brought back, and they do what they do, and they're still able to do. All right, I got into a discussion with a guy about Samson. Okay. And my take on it is Samson still judged the Philistines in the end because he was judging, right? See, when people read, they often only read about how God judged the Israelites or the Hebrews. It all depends on, because it switches from Hebrews to Israelites. But they only talk about how God judges them, but God judges the people who come against his chosen people, which was the Hebrews and the Israelites, through Abraham. Right. Right? And by what the book says. So he judges the other people, and he uses human beings mostly to do this, right? And so we had a discussion, me and this guy, we were talking about Samson, and he said that Samson was a slave, and he was blinded, and he was a slave until he died. But I said, that could be technically true, but then when they brought him into the temple to ridicule him and make him like a freak show and thought that he had lost his strength. But he grew his 7 locks back, and he looked up. Well, he didn't look up, but he prayed to God and said, let me have the strength to revenge my eyes for them gouging out my eyes. And God granted him, and he pushed the pillars, and he collapsed their God and their temple to their God upon them. That is judgment upon the Philistines. Now, you know, I came through Catholic school, so, you know, they teach this stuff. They thump this stuff, right? Theology class. I got A's in theology, right? And they thump this stuff at you, right? Samson collapsing the temple on the Philistines was judgment on the Philistines. He was still a judge, but you notice the most judges in the Bible it's not such a good thing for them. But you still have to realize that in the end they are still that David saw Bathsheba. He wasn't a judge, he was king. But David, through the line, it brought about Jesus. And he saw Bathsheba bathing. He sends her husband to the front line where he knew that he would get killed. Then he had Bathsheba, but through that, plus he had to atone and he had to ask for forgiveness. And everything didn't go smooth for him for the rest of his life. But he did bring about Solomon. Okay. You see? So even though all of this, so when you read the Bible, you realize that if it's for God, it's good, even if it's not good. So the main point is, when you read this, you're supposed to learn from history and man's mistakes before, and don't do the same thing. Okay. He is not a holy man. He's not chosen by God to do what he does. And we can go all the way through. We can talk about modern day. Modern day is still the 60s if you don't, and Elijah Muhammad and all that. We can talk about that, but we're not. But he's not a holy man chosen by God. He is a politician. And the Bible tells you that politicians are not holy men. So that's why he should be reelected, and it's no problem. And they should really stop pushing this whole God, I'm in the Bible thing.
They need to be pushing people wearing face masks out in public.
Yeah, they really need to push that instead of pushing that, and leave that alone and not worry about it, because it's really ridiculous.
And then we definitely have to give condolences also to actor Fred Willard, who's been acting his condolences to his family and friends. He's been acting for years. He appeared in over 300 movies and television shows, and he died at the age of 86.
Died at the age of 86, you know, of something. You know, have you noticed people since COVID came out, they've been finding, we talked about this, but they found ways to say that it's natural causes or some undiagnosed something or another, so they can have services. You know, but that's very, well, anyway, we won't get into that, but people. All right, people. So, you know, that's the film review podcast blurbs. How was your week? And the American Black politic. But now, people, let's talk about this film called John Henry. John Henry, right? John Henry. On Netflix right now, starring Ludacris and Terry Crews. You know, Ludacris and what's his name? Nelly just had a versus battle.
Oh, did they?
Did anybody see the versus battle?
I didn't know that.
Right? The versus battle happened, and they say that Ludacris might have mocked Nelly. Now, you know, we have to go back and watch it because, you know, we're preparing him for the show. Ludacris,
really good.
What's your fantasy, right? Yeah. So, look, people, he might have mocked. You know, he might have mocked him, and so that's what I'm hearing, right? I can't be sure because we haven't watched the replay yet, but we will be watching the replay, right?
Right.
So look, John Henry. John Henry is based in Compton, California. And people have been saying that this is the worst film that they have ever seen, that it is worse. And so we're going to break down what makes worse and good films, and is this not a sleeper? So let's go through the cast first.
Starring Terry Crews.
Mm-hmm.
He plays John Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Ludacris, he plays Hale.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Foray,
Mm-hmm.
he plays B.J. Henry, John Henry's father.
Mm-hmm.
Jamila,
excellent role.
Yeah,
go ahead.
He is. Jamila Velasquez, she plays Berta.
Mm-hmm.
Also starring Joseph Julian Sora, he plays Emilio. Maestro Harrell. Kimberly Herbert, she plays Tasha. She did really good also. Mm-hmm. And so
there's a little kid.
Tyler Alvarez also plays Oscar. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the kid.
The little kid. Now this little kid, he was just in the other movie we saw. And I can't remember everything, but this little kid, there was a kid about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. He was real gregarious and could really kick the lines that they gave to him. And all of a sudden he just faded away. But this kid right here kind of reminds me of that kid about 10 years ago,
this
right?
Is him.
Was it
yeah. Jalen Hall, Day.
Yeah, Jalen Hall, right?
Yeah.
This kid right here, he has a pivotal scene with John Henry, which sets up the hood that John Henry walks in. Beautiful writing on this. Okay, so John Henry is an ode to Compton, California. It is not one of those films like A Boys in the Hood or a Menace to Society, right? It's not one of those films. It would be more in the class of film like Poetic Justice, which takes you on a ride that is slightly different. The violence is in your peripheral in Poetic Justice. And so, and it comes up and it go in, and that is what this film is like. It is, you see what's happening in the peripheral, but it's about a man who, as a teenager, had something devastating happen to him in his youth, and he was born with this unusual strength, and it's all told in flashbacks before it becomes to real time. Now, we've told you what real time and what real time is. Real time, what we're in right now, talking to you, is REAL, real time, but then there is real time, REEL time, which is the cuts and edits which makes a film pace. That's real time, right? So, first and then flashbacks are segments within a film that is cut in to tell you something, give you some commentary about it, to bring context to what you're seeing in real REEL time, right? Okay, so you have to know this to actually know what you're seeing in this film, to know if it's trash or the worst film, or is it something that people are sleeping on, right? So you have to know this to know what you're looking at. Now, how you know that he has this great strength? It's beautifully shot because they use 4:3, like old video, like something like old camcorder video with dates and everything. And the father is talking. Creative. That's right. And the father is sitting in his Eldorado Cadillac, and he's talking to his son who's in the back seat filming him. And he says, when you were born, son, I put my finger out, and you wrapped your little finger around, and you squeezed so hard I thought I was going to have to fall on the floor. I said, you got your strength. What are you going to do with that strength, young man? Then it cuts to him as a teenager. See, you might have missed this because the director, which I need his name, the director and the writer of this was using creative license. He was using it was not really a surreal piece, but he was using some surrealism in it to tell the story.
Yeah, directed by Will Forbes.
Will Forbes.
And Will Forbes is also one of the writers.
That's right.
The other writer is Doug Skinner.
That's right. So Will Forbes is using creative license to tell this story. It's very creative, right? And if you can't pick up on this, you won't know. Okay, so he says, so what are you going to do? Then it cuts to a table and it shows you the path that he was on as a young man, where he's sitting at the table with other young men, and it's during the 90s. It's during the height of gang activity and the drug activity that, again, Ronald Reagan was responsible for. And he's showing you that, and there's guns on the table they're talking about what they're going to do and what they would do to someone who come up to them. Boom, right? Then it cuts and then it introduces you to John Henry as a grown person, right? Terry Crews, right? And he's working on a doghouse. Right. And he's working on a doghouse, and he finishes the doghouse, and he finished painting the name on the doghouse, and then you hear and a car screech, and then he runs out there, and his dog has been hit, and the person that gets out the car, instead of saying he's sorry, he pulls his gun out and basically telling him, when you gonna pay me for this damage that your dog did? He picks the dog up and he walks away as the guy is still pointing the gun. But this is to show you the mentality of what he is dealing with today. Right? Which each generation of people who are in the street, because each generation let it hang loose, and they let it hang loose, then it degenerates down to not even sorry, but what are you gonna do? You gotta pay me for what happened to my car because of your dog running in the street, man.
And what did I tell you after when we saw that scene? First thing I said to you is, I said, that was great. I said, because that opening right there showed you the mentality of the people that he's dealing with in this film.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it showed you the mentality. And you come to find out the person who hit his dog is under a certain person that he had dealings with. I'm not going to tell you the whole film because you have to see it. He had certain dealings with another person that he grew up with who was pressuring him to gangbang. And so he's underneath that person as a goon. And so you can see the degenerated nature, as this man pulls out. So then you're introduced to the father, then it cuts to a whole nother scene. Now, this is where you know that John Henry is a beautifully written film. It is a beautifully written film because at the table. Now, first of all, it opens with the father talking in the car to his son. And what he's talking about and the conversation he's having with his son. How many people know uncles who are like that? How many people know fathers who are like that?
Grandfathers.
It never ceases to amaze me how people are, it appears to me just looking at it, that people are ashamed of people in their family once something is put on a global platform. All of a sudden, the things are, before, you be like, yeah, that's my cool uncle, or that's my cool dad, or that's my cool whatever, my friend, or my neighbor, But then when it's put on a global platform, all of a sudden you want to be ashamed of it. And I can say that if I was going to be ashamed of anything, I would be ashamed of being an Indian in India, the way they show the slums in Slumdog Millionaire. And how they call certain people who live in the slums Slumdog Millionaire, and they're mostly the dark-skinned Indians over in India. Now, that is something to be ashamed of, because you're bathing in dirty water, you're living in shanty shacks, you're doing all that. At least we fought for some right? They're living in shanty. Now, that's something to be ashamed of, and some of those very people come over here and get in the medical field and try to look down on black people, and they will be considered slumdog. And they wouldn't even be millionaires. So anyway, that would be something to be ashamed of. But the way that the game is kicked, that is never to be ashamed of. So, sitting at the card table, and it's a female, and it's a larger big guy, and another guy sitting at the card table, and they're playing dominoes, right? And then as they set the scene across, you see three women sitting in skimpy, tight, short dresses, right? And then there's a woman counting money, right? Okay. Beautifully set up scene as they tell it, and the conversation, the way that it's written, is beautiful writing. It's not stereotypical. It's not, gratuitous. In this, be that, but it's in there, and it's well written, and it's realistic. It is realistic. It's realistic, right?
Right.
And what sets this scene up is there's something that happens, and I don't want to tell you because you have to see the film. You have to see if I don't want to tell you. There's something that happens, and they're talking and they're laughing, and then you hear and then the guy says, wait a minute, the big guy, right? And he looks down, and there's red syrup running out of his white velour sweatsuit, and he's like, oh my God, I think I just got shot. And then the other bullets come, but see, he would have had, it's beautiful. That's a story beat, because he had to be a bigger guy to be able to take the shot, the first initial shot, to be able to describe what was happening. Beautiful choice, right? So everybody knows when I say maple syrup dripping, they know what that means, right? So he was dripping, he said, I've been shot. Then the bullets, and then the story goes, right? And then John Henry is introduced to one of the people who escaped, and then the story kicks off from there.
Yeah.
This is not, if you're looking for something that's like, this is a tale about a man who is trying not to be in the gangster life or not be in the street life. Right. This is what this story is about. If you were looking for him to be totally gangster, and he was hesitant. He was so hesitant till he had to almost lose everything.
That was the one part that I was kind of, not to give it away, because I enjoyed the film, but it was like little areas I was getting really frustrated.
Right, it took him too long. It appeared that it took him too long to turn on to,
which irritated me.
Right. So it took him too long to finally turn on to say, hey, because he almost had to lose everything, right? So this is not the, plus, this is based on folklore.
Right.
Which is a beautiful, which is, again, what makes this surreal, dramatic, right? And it's satire. It's a satire.
I don't think people understand that.
Right. It's a satire on gangster lifestyle, because the man was totally opposite from it, and it shows you the absurdity of the extreme brutality of being on that side, that it never ends. It never ends. That's the message of the piece, right? But this whole story is based on folklore, which is the John Henry tale. Now, back in the 70s, when Schoolhouse Rock was out, it used to come on for us, it was Channel 5,
Saturday
it was ABC
morning.
Saturday morning, and they would do the John Henry story. They say John Henry raced this steam drill in the mountain, and they were going side by side. Now they say in the real story of John Henry, as he was using his hammer and he was actually beating the steam drill, that it was either some kind of treachery, or the mountain that he was taking his sledgehammer and beating through the rock through collapsed on him and killed him. Okay. But in the folklore tale, he gets through. He beats, because he was beating the steam engine. Right. A black man, a black man, strong. That's what this movie represents. And he was beating the steam drill. Right. But that happened, but in the folklore tale, he drills through and he beats the steam engine, but exerted himself so much that his heart broke, and he died. And that used to be what they would show, right? And there's a song, Harry Belafonte has a song. Johnny Cash remade the song.
Right.
There's quite a few people making this song. So when what happens at the end, if you know the folklore of a song, you know what has to happen to John Henry.
Right.
What they didn't show on Saturday mornings was there's a whole nother. It must have been like back in the day, like lift every voice and sing, about like 20 stanzas. You know, like when you don't just sing the first verse, like 20 stanzas of the song. There's another stanza in the song where he talks about his wife who picks up the sledgehammer and drills spikes too, and she was strong, and that's what you see in the film. So when you're watching this film, you have to look at the folklore of what he's telling.
Right.
And telling a tale of a person so he's mixing two things together, the folklore and a tale of a person who is reluctant because of something that happened in his past, right? And using the video, the 4:3 video of the past to represent what happened to him when he was younger. You might have missed it if you weren't paying attention, because they were showing you what was at the kitchen table with the people and the guns, and they were playing underneath. He was playing dialogue to let you know what happened. Right. That's all artistic filmmaking choice there, which makes this a great film. People are sleeping on this film. This should really be Ludacris and Terry Crews's great performance. If you look at, here's another thing. The close-up is everything, and Terry Crews's ability to emote in this film. The way that he's putting across his father as the strong figure who is, because he's been he's purposely sheltered himself because of what happened. His father being more worldly, knowing
I love their relationship.
More. Their relationship is there, so it shows you, like, when what happens, you're like, what? And then the grandmother, and how grandmothers try to protect everyone, even the ones who are wrong. That is true. So he just captured what was true in many people's households or lives, right? So this film, you have to go back and watch it again. Because if you're looking for gunplay, it's there, but it's in it comes in the periphery, or it comes to the end, kind of like I said, Poetic Justice. When Poetic Justice came out, even though Janet was in it, and not Cube, I get them mixed up, they both Geminis. Tupac was in it. Joe Torre. And Regina King. People didn't necessarily like that.
They didn't. People are always complaining. Some people should be just relegated to reviewing cartoons. I mean, really, right? Because I believe the same people today would have ripped A Raisin in the Sun, the film, apart, right? They would have ripped Lorraine with what's her name, Hansberry. Film. They would have ripped her film apart. So this is a good film, and like you said, if the mind state is this is going to be another menace to society, well, no, this is a different story. And when you watch films, I know when we do, right, we're open-minded. So we're open to, okay, this is a new film, this is going to be a new experience, and I'm not going to hold it up against any of the other films that I've seen, because this is a different film. This is a different writer and different director and different producer. It's a different story. But I don't think people can comprehend that. And then a lot of people didn't know that this was based on the folklore, right? And didn't know, like, I mean, the creativity, the writing. I mean, I don't understand.
What makes a film bad? What makes a film the worst film that you ever seen. Let's go through some of the things that this film is not real quick before we give the rating, right? Is the sound bad on the film?
Great sound.
Is certain things go up and down, or is everything balanced? Is the DJ quick soundtrack running through there dope? Is the song when the little boy has the meetup with John Henry? Does it tell the commentary of what's getting ready to happen in the scene? Does it tell it? Okay. Yes, it does. That is beautiful filmmaking, right? Okay. Is the picture messed up somehow?
No.
Is it not clear? Is it blurry? Is
crystal clear?
Right. Okay. That's what makes bad films. Is the narrative and the pacing on the film dragging? No. It moves right along. The narrative is telling you who he was, and it's using flashbacks, and it's using supporting cast members to tell the story, right? Is his character interesting or not? Yes, he's interesting. Is the father's character interesting?
Yes.
Right? Is the relationship between the half brother and the half sister, is that interesting?
Yes.
Is Ludacris on the surreal side of the story and the extreme brutality? Does he represent what a gangster would be like who is trying to stay on top?
Yes.
Then how could this be a bad film?
I think people are just, I don't know. They just.
Is it on Netflix?
Yes, which is great.
Which automatically puts it. All the people who want to be filmmakers who criticize and all that. Mm-hmm. I don't see your film on Netflix, Amazon, all that. You know, this is a great film. People are sleeping on this film. It is a sleeper. It is not the worst film I have ever seen. I have seen plenty of horrible films.
We've reviewed horrible films, and we have given them very low scores.
In film school, I've seen plenty of horrible films by people who were in the clique, and they said, "Oh, this is great," and that shit was trash. Right? So no, I haven't. This is not. But
these are the same people who not only are Raisin in the Sun. These people will rip apart Cooley High, which is another classic, a great film. You know. So, I mean...
The day the Cochise died. Right, anyway, look.
What's the other movie I love? Claudine. These people will rip apart Claudine. Today.
They would say, Diane Carroll wasn't dancing right when Gladys Knight on and on.
They would say she had all those kids.
That's not real.
I mean, people are...
James Earl Jones was in the closet.
Come on, people were complaining about Martin Luther King when he was alive. And now that he's gone, they have his
They act like they were right up underneath him while they was voting Republican after he died. But anyway, people, what would you rate the film?
I would give it a 10 because I was entertained.
Entertained.
Great storytelling, great acting. My favorite scene. It was a good film. But what jumped out to me, I love the scene between Terry Crews and that kid.
Yeah. It really turns the film right there.
Yeah.
Right, and then it turns the film, and then you get to see John Henry's full strength right there at that point. But the kid is just dynamic, and we want to see him in more films because he was in with Jeffrey Wright in the last film we reviewed a couple of weeks ago.
It's on Netflix.
All Day and a Night. All Night and a Day.
Yeah.
That right there goes in the realm of Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society, right?
With its own twist.
Right?
Got its own.
And so this kid he's coming up and he plays the younger character. Right. Yeah, so anyway, people, what did you give it?
I gave it a 10.
Yeah, I give it a 10 too. All right, people. So moving right along.
Because I love the relationships in that film.
Yeah.
The relationship between Terry Crews and his father. Mm-hmm. And then really, we also didn't talk about the relationship. It was the tension there, like between Terry Crews and Ludacris.
Right, but
see, I don't want to get a film away because you want to see the film.
That's true.
But there's a relationship there too. So all of the relationships are there's this one scene, and then we can move on. But to me, it's realistic. First of all, they're in California, right? So
Compton, California.
Right. And Terry Crews' father is speaking Spanish, which is not rare because there are many black people who can speak Spanish, right? But right before that scene, after that scene, and I said, oh, he probably, probably in school, learned it in school.
No, I said no.
And then you said no.
I said he learned that.
Yeah, but then sure enough, he did say in night school, right?
Right. He said night school. He said night school for a certain reason.
For a certain reason when he went to night school.
Right.
But just growing up, everybody in school, here in the States, right, in the United States, I think from junior high, middle school, all the way through high school, you have electives, and you do have French. The ability to learn a language, right? So a lot of Americans, middle school, junior high school through high school, took a language, and then you learn, like, either you choose French, Spanish. Some schools offer Mandarin.
Yeah, Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese.
Right. So you are
you have an opportunity to be well-rounded if you choose to be.
Like his father, Terry Crews' father. But plus, this is a great film.
Yeah, great film. Plus, it's an ode to Compton, California.
Right.
You making Compton, California a living, breathing character within the film. Yeah. That's beautiful filmmaking. You're supposed to make the city that you're in a living, breathing character within the piece.
Because in the midst of everything that was going on in the film, what I do love is at the end, and not giving away, you do see the community.
Right, and you see the beauty. You see the beauty of where this is happening. You see the beauty. Yeah. Right, and that's what you always see in the film. You say, "Look how beautiful." A good film. You say, "Look how beautiful it is." And this is happening within all of this beauty.
The palm trees and the beautiful neighborhoods.
And believe me, they make the palm trees look so much better than they look in reality. I give it a 10, people. I give it a 10. So moving right along, we are moving right along into another film.
Just like, what did we talk about the other day? The costumes. What are they called? The showgirl costumes?
Right.
On TV, they're like glistening and glowing. Right. But when you see them
in person, you're like, because when we got here and I won the Silver Ace Award at the International Las Vegas Film Festival, and the showgirls were standing up there, and I was like, look at these, ratty costumes, because they like keeping the vintage costumes. Look at these ratty costumes. But then when we played back the video, I said, look at these costumes. They look totally different. Anyway, people, the next film coming up is Selah and the Spades. Selah and the Spades. Questionable title automatically. This is on Amazon, right? Amazon Prime. Selah and the Spades. So this takes place at a private school,
right?
Preparatory college school where they stay on the campus. They stay on campus, right? It's a boarding school, preparatory college, preparatory for college,
right?
And they stay on campus, and there are 5 groups who are vying to be in control.
Right.
But there is one group in particular, the Spades, led by Selah, who are in total control. And her job is to make sure that she's a senior, and she's there to make sure that this group stays in control, and her manicness and her desire to see it go on past her, she's worrying about something that she will not be able to control because she's going on to college, and she really doesn't want to go to college. And this is where the tension happens between her and her mom, and you see that there's a dad there, but the story is between her and her mom, and her mom's mental control over her, which leads to her acting not a sociopathic.
Or
yeah, she's a social. She's a.
I was thinking she was like high stress, like
she's sociopathic.
Out.
Okay.
She's sociopath.
Anyway,
high strung.
High strung, a little over the top, willing to do anything, throw anyone under the bus to make sure that the black spades. Excuse me, not the black spades, the spades. But you know, it's the spades, like automatically. Let's go through the cast.
Starring Lovey Simone. She plays Selah.
Now you know her from
Greenleaf.
Greenleaf, and you know they're coming with the last season of Greenleaf, but they canceled Greenleaf over it on. Can you believe it? One of the best shows that represented what was happening in church
or did
life.
They just wrap it up?
They said that it was canceled.
Really?
They said they canceled it, but they have you informed me that they have one last season.
Yeah, one more season.
But they said they canceled it, so they must have shot it. And they said that's it. We're not showing anymore.
Maybe because it's COVID.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, possibly. But you see, certain people who have exited, soon will exit totally from OWN, and who have their own studio, you know, or quarantine their people so they can make the next season of Sisters and right. And soon somebody might have to call somebody and say, can we quarantine too in some of the houses and keep filming our stuff at your studio?
No, it's only for my people. Okay, the cast.
Go ahead.
We said Lovey Simone, she plays Selah. Celeste O'Connor. Jerome.
Yeah. Jerome.
Golden Globe winner, right?
That's right, for How They See Us.
Excellent actor. Jesse Williams is also in the film.
Yes.
Anna Malove, 10. Henry Hunter Hall is also in the film, and we know Henry Hunter Hall from the film. What's the film?
What is it? Tell me. I don't know.
You know, it's a hot Sunday here in Sun City. Okay, so in the film, Harriet. In the film Harriet. Oh. And he's the one that we said was the breakout star.
Oh, he's in it. He's the one that wore the dress in the end. I don't know why his mother put him in the dress at the end.
So, and we said he did a great job in Harriet, right? So he's also in the film Henry Hunter Hall. Gina Torres is also in the film. So that's the cast.
So the story revolves around these three people that you see that we just put up on the screen. It revolves around these three characters, right? Selah is in the middle. Selah, excuse me. Selah is in the middle. Selah, color purple, black spades. But anyway, look. Selah is in the middle, and then the two characters on the outside, the young girl that's over to the left, she is a sophomore. Yes. Right? And who has come into her own as a photographer. Yes. So Selah takes her under her wing to start to cover events that the spades are having, different things they're having, different disruptions that they do around the campus to irk campus authorities, the campus president and all that, to angst Jesse Williams' character. Yeah.
Just traditional senior stuff.
Senior stuff, right? But of course, he's not having it. He's the heavy, right?
Right. So he's a headmaster.
So she's been commissioned by her to go around. I don't know how she's taking classes and doing all her classes in this, but somehow it works for her. And she uses this for her photography class, the different photos that are okay for her to use. Now, Jarrell's character, what's his name? Maxie.
Yeah.
He is. They're like 1 and 2.
Best friends.
Sela and Maxie are like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Right, of the spades, but she's the head and he's like her henchman.
Right.
She comes up with the plans.
Yeah.
He works the financial books. Right. And so the story plays out that there is a treachery that happens, and Sela is somewhere mixed up within it, and it is a story where you're sitting there and you're looking at it and you're saying, what are these kids doing at this preparatory
It's like, where are their parents?
On this,
they shouldn't be off in boarding school.
What are they doing? I mean, they're doing everything. They got anything and everything you think people should have in college. They're doing it right there.
It's one thing when you're in college in the dorms, but just imagine children kind of running around, doing whatever they want.
Right. Yeah. So Paloma, that's her name, right?
Yeah.
Paloma then starts to assert herself into certain situations that she shouldn't. She's observing, but then she begins to show her leadership quality. Right. And there within this ensemble cast comes this problem. Right. This Sela, like I said, she's a little sociopathic.
And it's just so sad because she starts off, because she has all the potential in the world, right? She's very smart, right? She's focused.
She's a cheerleader.
She's a cheerleader. She created this organization. She's a doll. She's cute as a button. And it just goes way left, right?
But so she's a little sociopathic, and she sees that this girl. Now she's bringing this girl in, and she's really grooming. Before she knows it, she's grooming this girl to take her place because she's the sophomore. She's young enough to keep the spades going, but at the same time, my question was, why are they called the spades? This is something that had to do way back in the 50s or the 60s when they integrated the school, and they said, "Oh, y'all the spades," and you get, but it's they probably black spades, and they just cut it to the spades. And so that automatically, I question that. But as you see, the spades over time have been in leadership of the 5
in
groups.
Different, like within the spades, like you'll see, when you see the movie. It's on Amazon Prime, right? So when you see it on Amazon Prime, you'll see some of her, I don't want to say workers, but some of the other spades who are under her. Right. It's multicultural.
No. Those are different groups that sit at the table.
No, there's the one scene when they're in Sela's room, because I don't want to give away what they do, but it was just her people, and they were getting a few things together, just because I don't want to get a movie away. But they have a particular business they're in. And when her and Paloma was talking, and they was talking spades business, it was like 3 little workers back there, and and I said, "Oh, okay." So,
I think those aren't, from what I can tell from the story, those aren't spades. Those are people who are like lackeys. Who they use, and then you'll see there's some beating up happening, and it's not spades. But anyway, so look, the picture is disturbing, to say the least, right? It flows well, everything flows. I can tell that the actress who played Sela, right? What's her name again?
Lovey Simone.
Lovey Simone. I could tell that the movie was stressing her out, because at the beginning of the film, her skin was clear. Wow. Then all of a sudden 1 bump, then on the other side 3 bumps, and then before it was over, she had a constellation happening up here on the top of her forehead. But the editing cut it so well that there were certain scenes they had to use, and you would see it, but she had a constellation going up here. Like I saw Orion's belt.
Constellation. I just take it as just in real life.
I think
young people hormones get out of whack, and they have little zits.
I agree, but it didn't take away from her acting ability. And I'm sure that when she watched the film, she was alarmed, but the editor was on her side and pulled it out. Because what I look for is editing in film too. Right. And even though that was there, they made sure they found scenes that they could use. It's well put together in editing, sound quality, picture, everything. Yeah. But it was something that was going on, and I know that when she watched the film,
visually beautiful, right?
She was alarmed by it, but they were on her side and they pulled out her great acting ability. So the 3 actors in this, the 3 leads right here that we have up on the screen, beautifully done.
Yeah, great.
You can believe that they are who they are. You will want to see Sela in the spades. It is a disturbing situation, and what happens at the end is shocking, right? Okay. But you say, well, you should have known better. But anyway, people. So, what would you rate Sela and the spades?
I would give it a 7. Yeah, which is pretty good. The only reason why I would give it a 7 is I kind of I wanted more in the writing. Like for me, there were holes, right? And because in the beginning, the characters are revealed and you learn more and more about each character, right? But then the more you get towards the end, it just seemed like there was just
a pacing problem.
A pacing, right? You know. And so what I do like is they did introduce you to Sela's mother, right? And
which lets you know where she gets her sociopathic.
Right, played by Gina Torres, right? So her mother is so high strong and domineering and over the top, right? And you see where Sela gets this, why she's so stressed and have so much anxiety because her mother, the pressure from her mother, right? So she's, young, because again, it's they're living in dorms like college students. But to me, it's these children are dealing with adult situations. Which can be so stressful. So that's why,
pushed to be adults.
Yeah.
Right. To think like an adult.
But yeah, so it was good. So I just kind of wanted more. More. Yeah, because it was such a build up with Sela going to college. It would have been nice to have seen her go to college and to see her interact with college students, right? Because we see in this film she's the queen, right? She's the queen bee.
So she's got to start over. I would like to have start over.
Right. I would like to have seen her out of her queen bee element,
right,
and put in another element where she had to create relationships with other people.
That's it. That's exactly right. Yeah. I give it a 7 for that reason too. It's
definitely worth seeing.
No, it's definitely worth seeing. And like I said, the acting. Remember, that's why I said acting and the cutting of it, as far as making their performances tight. But there's a pacing problem because you don't get to see what happens afterwards. They cut. I don't know if they ran out of time. They could have cut some scenes out. But the cutting of making them there's cutting for pacing, and then there's cutting for making the actor's performance from the close up to the medium shot to the wide and combinations of such, right?
Right.
And making that person within the real time have a dynamic delivery, right? That's on point. The pacing, though, because we needed to see the beginning of college and we needed to see the Paloma as the new lead.
Yeah, that would have been nice to see how the transition happened, the parallelism. Because the film was about basically grooming her, right?
Right.
So I would like to have seen Paloma in this spot now as the leader of the Spades. That would have been nice, right?
Right. So that's it on that. So now, people, another show that is on now is called Defending Jacob, right? And that is on Apple TV, Defending Jacob. And Jacob is a quiet kid. He's a quiet Caucasian kid. Those are the ones you have to watch out for, I fear. I believe. But anyway, look. He's a quiet kid.
Right.
And he has a loving mom, a loving dad.
Right.
He goes to a nice middle school.
His father is Captain America. I mean, come on.
I mean, how could you go? I mean, his father is Captain America,
played by Chris Evans.
That's right. How could you go wrong with that? And so something happens one morning where one of his classmates is found dead in a ravine in the woods. He's found dead, and automatically the city, we can say that the city is put down on lockdown. That's a little small town.
Yeah.
It's put down on lockdown. The middle school that he went to was put down on lockdown, and they started to interview the students about, what they do. Is there anyone who could possibly want it out for this kid, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, while they're doing this interviewing, and his father is one of the people who is interviewing the kids, right? Yeah. He is.
Is he a district attorney?
He's a district attorney, and he goes in with his police.
Right. She's a private.
Buddy. Yeah.
Private detective.
Right, and they go in and they are interviewing the kids, right? And meanwhile, while this is discovered, there is a message. Yeah. There's a message, a messenger page.
Right.
And on that messenger page, the different kids are posting things.
Right.
And Captain America's son's name comes up, and one of the guys says, "We know you did it." Yeah. And that's when the story kicks off from there, right?
So the cast.
Go through the cast.
Oh gosh, as soon as I touch the screen. Starring Chris Evans, he plays the father, Andy Barber. Mm-hmm. Jaden Martell plays Jacob Barber. Mm-hmm. Michelle Dockery plays Lori Barber. Mm-hmm. Pablo Schreiber, we know him from American Gods,
which we probably won't be watching because they're getting ready to make this a buffoon fest with the black people. I could tell. Yeah. Well, is the season even going to come?
I would have thought it would have kicked off by now, but I think with the uproar with them removing Orlando,
but the COVID-19, too, the filming. But go ahead.
Also starring Cherry Jones, Betty Gabriel. She plays Pam Duffy. We know her from Get Out. She played the housekeeper in Get Out.
You sure did.
Also playing Sakina Jeffrey, Danielle Hanshaw, Purna Jagannathan, and William Faris.
Right. So look, that kicks off the film with the messenger board, and why did Andy Barber, Captain America, why did he? There's a murder the murder happens, and there's a cut on the throat from ear to ear, and why did he take something that the son have and dispose of it?
Right.
The story could have been over in the first episode had he not disposed of something.
Right.
And so the film, each episode is a tour de force or a journey in relationships.
Yeah.
How relationships were, what they develop into, and how distrust and misfounded trust leads people to then become disagreeable to the point where right now this is a white person, right? But had this been a black person, there probably would be a lynch party. But it's to that point where they're taking black paint and you're a murderer. You know how they used to say, go back to Africa. They're doing this, right? And so it gets to the point where you're looking at this show and you're like, look at the savagery of these people not giving the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Letting the information play out. They're out for blood.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
They're out for blood.
You know what? I had to go to another site to pick up the rest of the actors because they didn't have all the cast on the other site. J.K. Simmons is also
is Old Man Barber.
The father, grandfather, great actor. We know him from
quite a few things, but
tons of stuff.
But we really know him from Oz, right? So he kind of picks up his character from Oz because he's behind bars,
right?
And he talks and he says, "Hey, your son, huh? He runs in the family."
He does. He does a great acting job in this film.
Yeah, he does a great.
And then I want to throw in the kids because it's mostly about these
kid
actors do a great job, and they weren't on the other site.
Yeah, they just.
But Ben Taylor is also starring. Jordan Alexa Davis, she does a great job. The young girl.
I think so.
And Hale Lytle is also starring in the film. And Liam Kilbreth. So that's everybody.
That's everybody. Listen, people. So, defending Jacob. You have to, if you're looking for something to watch during this COVID quarantine, because I fear that the way people are doing in the quarantine, with the phase 1, that I fear that by the fall we will be back in quarantine because the next wave will come thanks to these people who are not social distancing, not wearing masks, not wearing gloves, not being covered from head to toe, just protecting yourself from what's happening out there. Just protecting yourself, I fear that we're going to be back in this, and the second wave will come. And the scientists had already said 18 months. That's a year and a half to 2 years in quarantine, right? So, what would you rate what we've seen so far? Because it's episodic, and we're on the sixth episode coming up, right?
Yeah, the sixth episode is coming up. There's in all there are 8 episodes, right? So 6 is coming up, and so far what we've seen up to 1 through 5, I mean, it's very interesting. Great storytelling, great cinematography, because I love the different scenes and stuff and the footage captured, and it takes place in Boston, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, it takes place in Boston. And they do a great job. Yeah, but I could tell because of the
architecture.
That, and also what is it? The ocean, right?
Oh, the water.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
and their Boston accents.
Yeah, which is weird. We talked about that because I guess it's just like in any city. Like Jacob's family, they don't have an accent at all, right? And some of the other people that they interact with. But when the father put on his prosecuting hat, right? Because he's trying to help his son as well. So when he did his own investigating, and when he went into the part of Boston that may be considered unsavory, right? They had the real thick, like Boston accents. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, they're in Boston. But yeah, the cinematography, they captured everything really well. It's just
so what would you give them?
I would, so far 1 through 5, I would give it a 7 also.
Oh, 7. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Why would you say that?
Because I have to see 8. I have to see it to the very end. So far, it's going really great. But again, I am highly disappointed in the way Game of Thrones ended.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And so I don't trust now, with these series.
Giving high ratings.
Yeah, because then you see it in the very end, it just like falls off the cliff.
Disappoints you.
Like the writing gets horrible and it gets lazy and they just slap anything together. And at the very end, it is just like... So far, it's going great. I'm giving it a 7, and I'm looking forward to watching episode 6, episode 7 and 8. And, and the acting is great. The son is frustrating, but I guess teenagers can be frustrating.
And that's what makes him look like he could have done it.
Because I'm like, this kid.
He might have done it.
He might have done it.
He called a friend a slut. I mean, I don't understand.
I mean, so, you know, and I'm like, the little black girl is being nice. How could you be so mean to her? But anyway, yeah. But anyway,
so 7. Okay, I give it for the pacing on each episode, how they break down the friendship. I don't give it about a 9 right now, and I see right there.
I mean, the acting and everything is great and stuff, but it's just this kid. One minute he's like he seems to be a sweet kid, and then next minute he just gets evil, and then next minute it's like he's detached because we don't want to give it away. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
Right. But in episode 1, it's well paced.
Yeah.
So in episode 1, you see what happens, right? And after,
well, you don't see who does.
You don't see who committed the crime.
You
right?
You see the aftermath. You see after the crime happens.
So you see what happens, and it's horrible, right? But then this kid is like so detached from it.
He's still like going around like nothing's wrong.
I'm like,
and the parents initially were too at first.
Yeah.
They didn't know that they would be basically segregated from out of the community that they lived in, or ostracized in the community that they live in. But they are. Yeah, so I give it a 9 right now.
Yeah, so far it's a 7, which is good. You know, for me, it's going good.
Yeah, it's going good.
So, you know, I don't know, by the time, you know, we get to episode 8, and then during the blurb, I'll mention it. So believe me, I will get back to this. And I will let you know, you know, how I feel the ending is. And if I just, you know,
if you change your number.
If I change my number.
All right, here we go. So, people, the last film that we're going to be reviewing, the last show that we're going to be reviewing tonight is called The Morning Show.
Also on Apple?
That's right. And if you have been under a rock, and Me Too, and we just finished talking about a Me Too and all that type of situation at the top of the show in real life. All right, so this show was developed around the time that Matt Lauder, remember Matt Lauder on NBC Mornings? When he was found to be said to be a cretin and a despicable person who took advantage of women, if they were interns, if they were people who were coming in who could possibly work at the NBC morning show. He was there to take advantage of them. He had a little button in the room that locked the door. All this is depicted in this show. So this is based on what was happening at NBC, right? And how Matt Lauder was unceremoniously relieved of his duties. And let's go through the cast.
The entire season is up. So when you watch this, you can watch it from the beginning to end, right? Which is great, right? So the cast star Jennifer Aniston. She plays Alex Levy. Reese Witherspoon, she plays Bradley Jackson. Steve Carell plays Mitch Kessler. You also have Billy Crudup, Mark Duplass, Belle Pauler, Gugu, and Beth Raw, Nestor Carbonell, Jack Davenport, Karen Pittman, Cheyenne Jackson, Deshaun Terry, Sherry Belafonte Harper.
Sherry Belafonte.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
it's an ensemble cast.
It's an ensemble cast.
It's an ensemble cast. Now, Gigi, Gunga.
Yeah. Gugu.
Yeah, Gugu.
She plays Hannah Shona.
She is a great actor.
Yeah, she is.
She is a really great actor. We have seen her in some of the best films ever. She was in
the last one we saw, what was it called? Brooklyn.
Motherless Brooklyn.
She did a great job.
She is just a great actor all the way around, and she is a pivotal character in this piece.
Yeah, she is.
And when you see that she is what turns the tide on, how could we say, the secrecy?
Can I say one thing that irritated me?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So when the morning show was first released on Apple, you know, during their whole launch.
Rollout.
Right. So I'm reading up on all the different shows that they're going to be putting on Apple TV. And I'm reading about this, and they mentioned Kerry Washington. Right.
Oh, they said.
So then I watched this, and I'm like, okay, so you in your effing review, I guess everyone looks alike, and this great actress, and Kerry Washington is a great actress also. But how are you confusing Kerry Washington and Gugu and Beth Raw? How are you confusing the two? Two completely different actresses. I mean, take the time to learn who's acted in the different films and the different TV shows, or I mean, do your research. See, that's what I'm saying about lazy, and just anybody can get on, just can do a review nowadays. I mean, you know, so it's just like, that's what I'm saying.
All look up.
Some people need to be relegated to cartoons.
But
anyway, and they said starring of Kerry Washington is in, and I'm just, and I was like, okay, and this is supposed to be a big, you know,
rollout.
I mean, but this is a big reviewer, and this is like one of the.
They obviously didn't watch an episode. They obviously just looked at the trailer and wrote, and they were too fast and too busy. They said, "Oh, that's Kerry Washington." Instead of looking at who's actually, you know, it's up. You know who plays in what is up. IMDb. Rotten Tomato.
But anyway, I was just so irritated, like when I saw it, because I'm like, oh, so I'm watching the whole thing, and I'm like, wait a minute, that idiot mixed her up with Kerry Washington. But anyway, I just had to say that because I was just irritated, because I'm like, okay, this is a review. This is, you know, I forget what it's supposed to be, and this was supposed to be one of those big reputable places.
All right. So look, Jennifer Aniston,
right,
and
Reese Witherspoon.
They're acting opposite each other in this. Is very strong.
Right.
Right. The Aniston and Steve Carell. Steve Carell, as coming from being a comic actor, his ability to deliver a manic, serious role. The Aniston and him on screen is electric. Okay, their chemistry on there, it really makes you believe that they actually worked on a morning show for years, right? And the way that Reese Witherspoon's character arcs in this piece, right? The emoting in this is excellent. The wide angles, the angles in which they choose to tell the story, somewhat documentary style. Beautifully executed in this television show, right? Now, we've been talking about Me Too and all that, right? And, you know, we've been talking about the psychological horror of having TNA, and this is one of those stories. Finally, they are bringing out the stories where they don't just keep talking about the black man was this and the black man was that. They finally are telling the story about the man who has been the worst usurper of all people's powers. They're finally putting it in film. Now,
you know who else was like really good? His acting was great too, but like intense, because you had to kind of fill out his character. Was Billy Crudup's character? The one of the main bosses.
That's right.
He played Corey Ellison.
The scene with him and Aniston at the party.
Oh yeah, that was great.
You know, there's a couple of microphones involved. You're gonna dig it, right? But anyway, look, we've been talking about the psychological horror of having TNA, and this pulls right in. So we're gonna play this scene right now from one of the movies that deals with it. Remember we said that there's a hamster wheel and people have to come off the hamster wheel. They have to come off the hamster wheel. And all this has already been told and filmed.
Right.
The story of finally the Caucasian man as a terror is finally being told and filmed.
Before we get to that really quick, Karen Pittman describes what she went through is what you're getting ready to show. Her character, Mia Jordan. This is really worth seeing, but go ahead, go into the scene.
So this is a scene from a 1970s movie, right, called Black Sisters Revenge, right? Okay. But this is an opening scene. Well, it's not an opening scene, but it's a scene that I start with where picture it's a black woman and she's belly dancing on a main thoroughfare and she's in the garb and everything. And watch what happens when the man approaches. Now, this could be any man, but you know, because this is a black film, they dealt with black characters, but this could be any man. So watch this. Okay, so let's stop there right there real quick. Okay. So she is out there belly dancing to get people to come to a car wash. Okay. Right? Okay. Now, here this man pulls up and he's flinging dollars thinking that something else is going to go on, but she is doing this because she knows this is a sure way to attract. Now, she just grins and bears this, right? Now, this is the mentality of some males, and this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show. Right. When you finish this, when it finalizes, go back and watch the beginning of the show, and it tells you this is the mentality of some men. Now, this is a strange woman from a different land to this guy, but he pulls up and he wants to fling dollars, and come to find out it's for a car wash. Okay. Beautifully, but the cinematography on this and telling the story, they reveal through the pan, and they reveal to the fact that it's a car wash. Before it says for sale, then it goes to car wash. So it has its many different meanings, and they let you know that what he was thinking was she was for sale. You see, and it's great cinematography there, but really it was for a car wash, right? So these are the type of things when we're talking about the psychological horror of having TNA, and this is what this show is about.
Like all of that extra, like instead of him just giving her a compliment and like they do for performers on the street, art performers. And they give them money, keep it moving. All of that other extra, harassment and is uncomfortable.
No, that could have been. Now she grinned and buried it. Now this could be any man, but this is the horror of having TNA, and it's in films, and it doesn't have to be rehatched. All of this they are rehatching. None of that has to be rehatched. So let's go forward. Let's move forward. Now. So you see that it's for a car wash, right? And he gets dejected because he realizes what it's for. So he gets dejected. He goes, and he drives off, right? Like it should be. Now, this is where the rubber hits the road right here. This is Emma, right? And this is Black Sisters Revenge, right? 1974. So let's watch this scene play out, and then we're going to tie this in to the morning show. Put your headsets back on.
Well, shut the door. Can a man have no privacy around here?
Emma, please. It's not what you think, Emma. We was just loaded.
You can go slick.
What kind of shit is this, Emma, please? I'm the oldest black-ass nigga around here, you please. You close the goddamn door.
You can go slick.
Sarah, get back in this bed.
I said you can go slick.
Get your ass back in this bed. What kind of shit is this? You got all these dumbass niggas scared of you around here? What you trying to do, make a fool out of me or something?
Make a fool out of yourself, Jess. Everything I did for you. I did it because I love you. Thought you felt the same way about me.
Me? Love you? Bitch, you got to be crazy.
Got to be crazy.
I use you. You're a toy, bitch. A freak. You got a face only a mother could love, and she died, so she wouldn't have to look at it no more. You get your big country, greasy ass back to the country where you belong.
Back to the country.
You're right, Jess. You're always right. I'm going back to the country.
Yeah, you do that.
Because if you're all the city has to offer, I feel sorry for all of you. But before I go, I'm going to show you you're nothing even at your own game. I'm going to kick your ass.
Wow.
Bitch, you hit me! Get Jesse, bitch! I kill you, motherfucker! Hey, fool! You better go back to the country. The city gonna kill you, crazy ass girl. Hey! Hey, see! Hey, fool! Who let this damn fool in here? What's going on? Shit! You ain't come here and get this old crazy. Hey, man! Y'all sleep down there? Oh, man!
First of all, the soundtrack on it is banging. It's just banging. That boom, boom, boom. I can hear that in hip hop right Okay, people. Okay. So that's Black Sisters Revenge, right? You had to see it, 1974. You see, all of this is already written. It's already in the hamster wheel. We keep on going over the same things. We don't have to keep on rehashing this. Like when old girl Tawana Burks came out with Me Too, and she said it didn't have to do with white men. And you see it crumbled when it came around to Biden. It did crumble. She said she's not worried about white men. She's worried about black men. But nobody would look at Tawanda Burke. She said she did it because her friends was talking about it. But so this is already in the hamster wheel. It's already laid out. The morning show lays it out in a totally different way. Yeah. What would you rate the film quickly?
I would give Morning Show a 10.
Yeah, I give it a 10 also. So people, this has been...
I love the multicultural cast.
Yeah. This has been another great episode of the Film Review.
Right.
Movies, music, culture, politics, and society. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, and society. And we will see you next time on the Film Review.
The Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on the Film Review Live channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stannis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching the Film Review.